Chico and Zeppo?
Listen, do you want to hear this, or do you want to exhibit your idiotic sense of humor?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Maggies were all ages, from 18 up. The young would mix with the old, and they would learn that way. They had no trade. They were Luftmenschen.
These guys were all Yidlak?
Yes, they were all Jewish. They were hustlers. They had a secret modus operandi, or method of operation. They would buy a roll of linoleum for $8 and sell it for $28 or $38. A woman could get the same thing at the May Company for $10. They used to hang around Turk's Delicatessen. There was always a card game going on there. They'd go from there to the track or gambling clubs like the Hedges Club or the Thomas Club. They were all nervous and tense. They would constantly bicker with each other about small things as if it were pilpul. They were called Maggies because they addressed the women they sold to as Maggie.
Would that name have anything to do with magnolia? You said that was another word for linoleum.
No, I didn't. Where did you get that?
Now wait a minute, you did say that. Why are you denying it? When you talk about dishonest men, do you have to be dishonest?
Why not? Even Socrates was dishonest.
Socrates, what does he have to do with it?
Socrates said all men are dishonest, so even he was dishonest.
There you have it, folks. Now you know all about the Maggies, with a little Socrates thrown in.
That's so good.
And you have the shoes one?
Yep.
That
Okay.
was so brilliant.
I have this all pretty
Okay.
nicely.
And can I read that from your
Oh,
book?
yeah.
Stetson shoes. And this is something
This one really captures a flavor of life in the 80s that maybe many of us experienced.
because,
Also, Gary Dunn, one of the best
yeah,
Pekar artists.
Gary Dunn lived in Cleveland, right?
Yes.
And they hung out a lot. So, Stetson shoes. One day, back when I was a compulsive record collector and used to spend all my money on records, I found myself temporarily out of bread and without a decent pair of shoes. It was a chilly, rainy spring day, and I was walking around on the street. My shoes had holes in them. And as I walked around, my feet got wetter and wetter. When I walked, I made a squishing sound. This guy I met in the street started talking to me. He was the most boring cat in the neighborhood. He filled you in on all the details, and he talked real slow and in a monotone. You want to be the monotone?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
those are. Then, after the fuel pump went bad,
I was standing there on the cold, wet sidewalk listening to this guy do his rap and started getting even wetter.
finally it started up, but then...
Oh man, I don't want to hear all this shit. Finally I split. Yeah, nice to see you, but I got to get going. I couldn't afford a new pair of shoes. I only had a few bucks in my pocket. Payday wasn't for another week. I had to have a decent pair of shoes. What was I going to do? Then I got an inspiration. Wait a minute. What about that second-hand store where I go to look for records? Maybe they got cheap shoes there. There's a second-hand store fairly close to where I lived, where I sometimes looked for records. Once in a while I'd pick up something interesting for myself, but mostly I'd pick up pop records there for $0.25 a piece and sell them at work for anywhere from 50 cents to $2 a piece. See, I used to make extra money hustling LPs that I'd spend buying other records. Anyway, I headed for that store. By the time I got there, I was really soaked. Man, after all of this, I sure hope they got something. Pardon me, ma'am, but do you have any men's shoes?
Yes, they're in the back.
Thank you, Kathleen. How much are they?
50 cents a pair.
Well, the price is right. I go in the back and find the shoes. Hey, they might have some stuff I can use here. Ah, shit, this one doesn't fit quite right. It looks like it might. It don't make sense to wear uncomfortable shoes no matter how cheap they are. The left one feels good. Let me find the right one. Can't do much unless you have both shoes. Shit, it ain't here. But then I found a prize. Hey, what are these in the corner? These look good. They're in good shape. Hey, they're Stetsons. Now, I guess I better explain the significance of Stetson shoes to some of you younger readers. See, back in the 50s, it was considered hip to wear these pointy-toed shoes, which in my neighborhood used to be called spades, pronounced spades. Spades?
I would
Spades.
say spades.
Spades. Spades. Okay. Now, these shoes, Stetsons, were about the best brand. To buddies of mine, guys who nowadays would be called greasers, Stetson was the Cadillac of shoes. You spent all the money you made setting pins last week on a pair of shoes.
Yeah, but you gotta realize, these are Stetsons.
I remember this Cleveland Indians pitcher named Mike Garcia. He used to do a radio commercial for Stetsons.
Hello, folks. This is Mike Garcia for Stetson Shoes. When I get off the mound, after a tough game, I like to relax in this way.
Now, in my days, I didn't wear pointy shoes, although a lot of my friends did. See, I prided myself on having my own value system, even then. And I thought that it was kind of silly to make a big deal out of clothes, over clothes. So I wore real plain, old-fashioned, ill-fitting clothes. I kind of prided myself on it. My sloppy appearance was a badge of my individuality. People don't like the way I dress, they can go fuck themselves. But looking at the Stetsons in the second-hand store that day touched me. My 1950s scene came flooding back into my memory. I tried them on and they fit. Boy, they're comfortable. Just like they were made for me. These are really well-made shoes, too. They're really high quality. Now that they're not popular anymore, I guess I can wear them. I also found some other shoes that I like in that store. Hey, there's a nice looking pair of wingtips. And what about these shoes? They got mesh tops. They're nice and light. Bet they'd be nice for the summer. I left the store with my shoe problem solved for almost no money. Wow, this is my lucky day. When I was walking home, I felt elated. It's funny how little things can sometimes make you feel so much better. When I got home, I put on my Stetsons and walked around the rest of the day, and they feel great. And they're nice looking shoes too. They got a classic design. They don't look jivey like some of these modern shoes with those bullshit platform heels and patent leather tops. Imagine me finally wearing Stetsons. I knew I'd make it to the top someday.
Okay, now it's your turn, Dave.